Sir Walter Stewart? Sir Walter Stewart was the 6th hereditary High Steward of Scotland. He was born around 1296 at Dundonald Castle to James Stewart, 5th High Steward of Scotland, and his mother, Giles de Burgh, a daughter of the Irish nobleman Walter de Burgh, 1st Earl of Ulster.
The name Stewart is an occupational surname originating from the hereditary title of High Steward of Scotland. A steward is a person who is responsible for looking after someone else's property. In the case of a large estate, the steward would essentially be the estate manager. The steward is responsible for overseeing all the daily functions of the house and property and supervising of staff. The Stewarts in Scotland descend from a family line who were the hereditary High Stewards of Scotland. Thus, instead of being stewards of a household or an estate, they were stewards of the entire country of Scotland and to the Scottish Crown. The political office of High Steward was arguably the most powerful position in the country next to the king. Over time, this hereditary office title was adopted by the family as a surname. In the early 12th century, King David I of Scotland rewarded one of his loyal knights, Sir Walter Fitzalan, by granting him the office of steward to the king, or master of the king's household. Sir Walter was a first cousin to Elizabeth de Burgh, second wife of Robert the Bruce.
Because the Gaelic D is pronounced hard like a T, the surname became Stewart. It was also found spelled as Stewart or Stewart. The spelling Stewart originated from the Linlithgow-born Mary Stuart, later Queen of Scots, who was raised in France. At a young age, Walter fought against the English at the Battle of Bannockburn on the 23rd and 24th of June 1314, where, according to some sources, together with Douglas, he commanded the left wing of the Scots army. For his services at Bannockburn, he was appointed warden of the Western Marches and was given the lands of Largs, which was given up by King John Balliol. In 1316, Sir Walter Stewart donated these lands to Paisley Abbey. After the release of Princess Marjorie and the others, such as the Bruce's wife, Elizabeth de Burgh, by the English during a hostage exchange, Sir Walter was trusted to escort Princess Marjorie and the others from the border back into Scotland. It was said that he was given the task both because of his courage at Bannockburn, but also because he was Elizabeth's cousin. Her father, Robert the Bruce, later gave her hand in marriage to Sir Walter Stewart for his valour at Bannockburn. The two were wed in April-May time of 1315. Part of Princess Marjorie's dowry was the barony of Bathgate and Bathgate Castle, where her and Sir Walter Stewart lived. The castle was Caput, or chief seat of the barony of Bathgate. This is where the annual pageant at the Bathgate procession comes from, and the reenactment of the wedding, which takes place every year and has done since 1844. While the King Robert the Bruce was absent in Ireland, Walter the High Steward and Sir James Douglas managed government affairs and spent much time defending the Scottish borders.
After the capture of Berwick-upon-Tweed from the English in 1318, Stewart took command of the town, which subsequently, on the 24th of July 1319, was taken by King Edward II of England, son of Edward Longshanks. Several of the siege engines were destroyed by the Scots garrison, whereupon Walter, the steward, suddenly rushed in force from the walled town to drive off the enemy, again demonstrating his bravery on the battlefield. In 1322, with Douglas and Thomas Randolph, he made an attempt to surprise the English king at Byland Abbey, near Malton in Yorkshire, but Edward II escaped and was pursued towards York by Walter and 500 horsemen. One day while riding through the oak forest of Paisley, Princess Marjorie fell from her horse while pregnant with the future King of Scotland, Robert II. This began the Stewart dynasty in Scotland, and a few centuries later, Walter Stewart's descendants would sit on the throne of England too.
In 1316, Stewart donated the church and lands of Largs to Paisley Abbey for the sake of Marjorie's soul. After the tragically premature death of his wife, Princess Marjorie, Stewart married again. His second wife was a lady called Isabel de Graham, whom he married in 1317. Isabella was born in Abercorn, West Lothian in 1298 and is believed to be the daughter of Sir John Graham of Abercorn. Stewart and Isabel had 3 children together.
John Stewart of Ralston, Sir Andrew Stewart and Egidiah Stewart. Lady Isabel de Graham, or Isabel Stewart, died in 1325, leaving Sir Walter again without a wife. Built somewhere around the 1100s, Bathgate Castle was the main seat of power for Bathgate. Here Sir Walter Stewart lived alongside Marjorie until her death in 1316. When he remarried Isabel Graham, they would have lived here until Walter's death in 1327. Some reckon Walter Stewart may have been buried in Bathgate, as stone coffins were dug up next to Bathgate Castle containing coins and other clothes to the site. After the death of his wife, Walter withdrew his infant son to the castle on Morris at Bathgate. Although the Morris on which Bathgate Castle stood no longer exists, it may be gathered that it was of considerable extent from the survival of such place names such as Bog Hall, the Bog Burn, Boghead House, Little Boghead, Inch Cross, Mosside Farm, Easter Inch and South Inch. Because of its connection with the royal family, the town of Bathgate and the lands lying around it anciently formed a sheriffdom in themselves. The sheriffdom of Bathgate, a distinction enjoyed by few towns of its size in Scotland. Bathgate Castle and Bathgate Church stood within sight of each other on the side of the road between Glasgow and Edinburgh. The castle has disappeared, but the church has remains still exist. It was repaired and the churchyard wall was restored by public subscription in 1846. By 1906, almost nothing remains to mark the cradle of the Royal Stewarts, but a grassy mound from which radiate several approaches that bear evidence from their slight elevation of being of artificial construction. This elevated ground would have been the site of the main tower built on a moat. The bailey would have ran around this, taking up considerable space. Sources suggest that the castle would have been made of stone, especially after the 13th century, when moat and bailey castles that were to be kept were converted into stone if they weren't already. A bridge called Rennie's Brig ran over the railway line before being destroyed in 2007 to make way for the new railway line. The 3 stunted fir trees used to mark the site of the castle in the Morris belonging to Walter Stewart. The 3 stunted fir trees have disappeared, although it is still possible to trace the outline of what may have been the road leading up to the castle. The fosse, or one of the castle walls, is located close by. These low grounds were in ancient times a morris or shallow lake, forming a natural moat for the castle, which stood on a slight eminence in the middle. The approach to the castle was by causeways built through the morris, and as the direction of these causeways would not be well known to an enemy, the position was thus a very strong one, and capable of easy defence. When the first statistical account of the parish was written in 1799, the foundations of the castle were still visible, and the causeways that led to it remained. Various vessels of copper and brass, which were supposed to have been used as kitchen utensils, had been found among the ruins. In this statistical account of 1844, hardly a vestige of the foundations of the castle is now to be discovered, but some remains of the causeways still exist.
Walter spent the remainder of his life at his favourite home, Bathgate Castle, where his son, the first Stuart King of Scotland, was partly raised, Robert II. Sir Walter Stewart would have attended the old kirk at Kirkton during some point in his life. He fell ill, and it became quickly apparent that he would not survive, and so, on April the 9th, 1327, at the age of around 31, Sir Walter Stewart died of consumption within the walls of Bathgate Castle, and was later buried at Abbey Church of Paisley, alongside his first wife, Princess Marjorie Bruce, and his 5 high steward ancestors.